the governorship election in Edo State, campaigns have gone on full swing as political parties rally around different communities for support. The political situation in Edo State, Nigeria, has become very tense following developments which took place on Thursday. The power tussle has seen a purported impeachment of the Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the state's House of Assembly by 17 members, 12 of whom were never sworn in. Joining us to discuss this and more is the President of Good Leadership Advocacy for Africa, Dr. O'diakpo Obire. Thank you very much for joining us. A very good morning to you. To say that there is political unrest and tensions happening in Edo State is an understatement. Give us a general overview of the situation now as it stands.
Well, thanks for having me. When you talk about leadership, we need to do things the right way. What is happening, what is playing out in Edo State today is as a result of bad internal political democratic process. We need, in Africa, we need to look into our political parties' internal democracy policies and strengthen them, because if from the inception everything was right, I don't think what we are seeing in Edo State today will see it. In the first instance, this whole thing started from the governor not being able to constructively engage people. When some people feel shortchanged, when some people feel that they are sidelined, because in a situation where you have a larger part of elected members of the House of Assembly sidelined and not sworn in, certainly is affecting the representation. The people that were sidelined, their representation in the House was put on hold for too long.
You know, I'm just wondering, O'diakpo.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the genesis, the refusal of the governor to inaugurate the majority of the duly elected members of the House, and even electing a speaker with the remaining members in the night of July, in the night, this is according to the night, outside of the House, on July 29, outside the Assembly building. It baffles me why the governor had to do that, why that stayed with us, with the Edo State people, and nothing was done to correct it. I know that the NAS came into this issue, you know, and after the investigations, they said he should cancel the earlier inauguration and inaugurate those people. But then he went to court in Port Harcourt, where the judge there said, no, NAS can't interfere in what is happening in the Edo Assembly. So how did we leave this situation like this? Couldn't it have been corrected, either by the courts or whatever, that people who were duly elected were not represented?
You see, politicians, most of our politicians today have seen the court as an avenue or the means to thwart some realities. When you swear in elected members in the dead of the night, is unconstitutional. And if the governor have gone to do the right thing from the beginning, and even when the NAS intervened on the matter, he should have engaged constructively. But in a process or in a situation where politicians feel that those who are not in line with their ideologies or in line with their personal interests, things like this happens. And these are some of the things we are trying to look into in Africa, most especially this country. If we must move forward, we must do things the right way.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, actually, I'd like to come in there. I love that you said that we have to do things the right way. You are obviously a leader of an advocacy that is titled Good Leadership. And as you've said in your first answer, what's going on in Edo State as it stands now is not a good example of good leadership. But with so much mudslinging from both sides, from both the PDP and the APC, do you think that should we successfully get to an election in September, do you think that the governance that would be held thereafter, once a governor is selected, do you think that that leadership has the potential to be your definition of good?
Well, what is happening in Edo today, we can say is as an example of bad leadership. Because when you talk about good leadership, it's a selfless service to the people. You want to serve the people and not your personal interest. But when personal interests supersede the service to the people, then
there's a disconnect.
There's disconnection, and it doesn't go well. There will be disarray, and the people, those who felt that they were sidelined in the process, will look for other ways to want to come back to you or want to get back to you, and that is exactly what is going on right now.
And that's exactly where I will come in. What's the legal implication or interpretation of the removal of the Edo State Speaker of the House of Assembly, Francis Okie, and his deputy, Roland Asoro, by 70 members of the House in a different location, not in the Assembly building, where the roof was taking off, the mace was taking off, gravel was poured on that?
That is a very wrong move in the first place. Because when you take a look at the entire scenario, you will see that the executive arm of government in Edo State came into or dabbled into the activities of the legislature, which is totally wrong, because we have the executive, we have the legislature, we have the judiciary. These are the forms that made up of a government status. So when one is interfering in the order, then we cannot have good governance or service delivery to the people. It is wrong in the first place, because when you block the activities of the people, you take off the roof, or you pour sand or granite in the front or at the entrance of the assembly, what do you expect? If they have the mace, certainly they can sit. So I see it's a very wrong move by the governor. He shouldn't have done that.
No, but he didn't address the first issue, which is what is the legal implication or interpretation of the 17 members? Well, there were 14 before. Actually, in that occasion, the 14 were now sworn in. Then they became 17, and then they impeached the Speaker, Frank Okie, and his deputy, who replaced a former deputy that was also impeached a day earlier. So you didn't address that particular one. Yes, you addressed the issue of interfering with the House proceedings and everything that has to do with the House. Somebody has even said, why should the governor be so powerful as to determine how the House runs their affairs? So address that particular issue.
Well, that issue, in the first place, there is a mace. And if you locked up against the people where they were supposed to carry on their assignment, certainly they will look for somewhere else to to carry on their activities. One, in the first place, is just like a coup. Because if going by what was happening, 14 House members elect have been sidelined over the years. And the other 4 3 added to it, making it 17. I think they have a quorum at that time. They took their action. So it's the legal implication of it is that if they sat with the mace, then it can flow. But if they did not have the mace, as at the time they were doing that activities, then it will have a different interpretation.
Well, they had a mace, but they said that the mace was not the original mace in the House. What does all this portend for Edo election, gubernatorial election, due September 19th?
Well, from the look of things are very bad. The situation is bad in Edo State because the 2 major political parties, the APC and the PDP, should have looked inward and find a way to solve some of these problems and start telling the people what they are bringing to the table. But as it is, what all we see is as if it is a war situation, as if the 2 political parties are warring. And it shouldn't be that way when it comes to electionary process. Candidates should be able to talk to the public. They should be able to bring their manifesto to the table. They should be talking to the people what they should be expecting if elected into office. But in a situation where people have that stand that, oh, I can find my way into the office, whether through vote or no vote, that is a very wrong situation. And that's where everybody is looking forward to. Whoever smarts each other becomes the winner of an election. And it shouldn't be that. These are some of the things we need to correct in Africa. And the only way we can correct these things is looking into our political parties' internal organs. We need to strengthen the organs. We need to have the right candidates for elections. We need to put above board the interests of the people first. The people you want to serve, their interests should be first, not your personal interests. But today, across Africa, not just Nigeria alone, the 54 countries in Africa, we're experiencing a whole lot of things. And if we must get Africa back to be in line and stand with other continents, we must devise means of solving our problems and doing the right things when it comes to choosing our leaders. Because if the process of selecting candidates is wrong, people will be aggrieved. And if the process is right, even the courts that we run to after primary elections or elections, we rest.
O'diakpo, I'm sorry, I have to stop you there. It is time for us to take a short break. But when we come back, not to worry, you'll be able to finish your point and we'll continue our discussion. Please do stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still joined by the President of Good Leadership Advocacy for Africa, Dr. O'diakpo Obire. Thank you for staying with us. We've been speaking so much about Edo State and the politics there, but there's also a story to tell about your own connection to politics. Tell us more about your own personal experience in running an election and how it's any type of similar or dissimilar to what we're seeing in Edo State now.
Well, in 2019, I ran for the governorship of Delta State. And what we saw, or what the experience, is not like what is happening in Edo State today. Because what is happening in Edo State is appalling. But not that the experiences we have were palatable, because some of us left our initial original political parties and went to run elections in another party and all that because of internal democracy issues. So I keep insisting that our party internal democracy organs should be put right. Because after primaries, you see that a lot of people feel sidelined, and that does not help. That is not helping our system. So the electoral laws need to be looked into properly, and we should strengthen that area where when people jump guns from one political party to the other. Exactly. That is not helping our system. It is not healthy. When people look at, when is APC having their primary election? When is PDP having their primary? They look at the timetable and they work with that timetable. When it doesn't favor them this way, they move to the other side. And that is not right. So we need to look into that. There should be a particular period you can be in a political party before you can be allowed to run for a primary election. Not defecting from one party today, then the next day you emerge as the candidate of another party. These things are not right. And there should also be severe what do I call it?
Consequences.
Consequences, because if you are an elected political office holder in a particular from under the platform of a particular political party, and if you move from that party, if you defect to another party, you should lose that seat completely. Whether you are a governor, whether you are a senator, whether you are an assembly member, or whatever position that you ran for, and you won the election on a platform of APC or PDP, and you now move to another political party, you should be relieved of that position. They should declare that position vacant so that people will stop moving.
Indeed, it seems to make our electioneering inconsequential, and it seems that politicians have developed this attitude of taking their electorate for granted. I can move anytime, any day, and then the electorate must vote for me, or their votes don't matter. Now, the former vice president who ran for presidency under PDP, Abubakar Atiku, says the events playing out could threaten the coming election. He's asking all the warring parties to sheath their swords and let the people of the state decide who they want to govern them. What do you make of his statement?
Yes, earlier I made mention that there's need for them to calm down, both APC and PDP. They should find a constructive means of engagement. They should look at the issues at hand and solve the internal problems within the parties. And if there are personal issues, because most of this problem happening in Edo State today are personal interests. They are not political interests. They are not for the public interest. They are personal interests. One fell out of favor, or there's disagreement, or they don't, people don't move along with the ideology of the man on the seat. So a lot of issues are just surrounding personal interests. We should put personal interests aside, because running for an election is not for a personal interest. You want to serve the people. Now, the people you want to serve, you don't have to force yourself on the people. You let the people know what you are bringing to the table. Then they will choose who their leaders should be. But in a situation where people find it by all means to get into an office, then it's not the right way to go.
Anything goes.
Our institutions must be strengthened because there are too many loopholes in our institutions. We need to strengthen them. The INEC, we need to strengthen it because you discover that people are not too comfortable with results from results from elections because they feel that people can be compromised, people can be bought over, and a lot of activities are happening. That is why you have too many cases in court. We have no reason. At this stage, we have no reason to be facing this kind of thing that is happening in Edo State today. This is like an act of gangsterism because you are not allowing the people to look at issues. Yes, to look at issues. They are not running an issue-based election. We've been following the electoral process. The campaigns is all about personal issues. It's all about this one is this or this one is this. Yes, political parties have the party members have the right to support whoever candidate that emerges emerges as a candidate in any election.
Like you've graphically painted the picture, of what's happening, seemingly not discussing policies. The key player in elections in every nation, key players are the electorate. So how do you think, what message is being sent out to the electorate here? And how do you think the electorate should handle this situation?
As it is in Edo State, there are a lot of sentimental whipping. Some people will have sentimental votes. Some people will have votes based on political parties. And if we go by this, it's not the right thing to do. First and foremost, these worrying factors in Edo State, they should find a way. They should find a way to come together.
Do you foresee the election being postponed?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But if they continue with the pace they are going, certainly there's going to be a lot of physical attacks.
INEC has warned of violence.
Yes, there's going to be a lot of physical attacks, which is referred to as violence, because right now, if some people can go into an institution of government and remove the roof and pour sand or granite and block the entrance of that institution, in fact,
O'diakpo, the latest is that we'll just leave it there for now. We can't talk about some other issues. We're so glad to have you on the morning show. Thank you, O'diakpo Obire.